Welcome to the second episode of Smash Mounting Football's NFL podcast. And once again, we're here to preview Thursday Night Football with my guest, UK-based journalist, Conor Perrott. Conor, how are you getting on?
Doing great, thank you. Amazing week one of the NFL, and week two's already close around. They come thick and fast.
And what was your favourite game of week one?
Oh, it easily have to be Lions taking the win in Arrowhead, but we won't talk about. We did. We called it. We both said it. And Brian Barnes got the pick six. Oh, it was amazing.
Yeah, it was a great start to the weekend. A few surprises. I think the strongest teams in the NFC continue to be the strongest teams in the NFC. The Cowboys, 49ers, and Eagles. And we're going to talk about one of those teams today. The Eagles at home against the Minnesota Vikings for week 2 of Thursday Night Football. So what did you make of the Eagles' first outing against the Patriots?
I feel a lot of people, they started the game super hot. They went, I think, took 16-0 lead. Darius Slay got pick six, and then they sort of slowed down a little bit. Patriots brought it back a tiny bit, but I'm not too worried about them. I still think they're the top team alongside the 49ers in the NFC. I think we're seeing a lot more, especially Jalen Hurts. I think he looked a little bit off it. And I think that's more so to do with preseason now. We're not really seeing a lot of starters play in the preseason. And I think that's going to lead to slow starts in the NFL. But I'm expecting them to get back and their offense to really, I think their offense could put a big score up in this game.
Yeah, I agree. I think week one is always a lottery of how people are going to perform. I think we saw that last year, even with the Bengals when they lost was it their opening 2 or 3 games. And I can see teams really kind of becoming who they're going to become from week 2 onwards. Eagles, they're still the best, still the best offensive line, I think, in the NFL, and I would put them in the top 3 defensive line as well. So I think the Vikings are going to have their work cut out. In terms of how the Eagles played, did anything surprise you?
I think for starters, I would like to talk about Jalen Carter. I think he had an amazing game. He had the most QB hits and pressures or hurries out of the entire league, and he played 36 pass rushing snaps, and he had 7 QB hurries. So he's certainly staked the claims to showing that he's still the player that he was in Georgia. But I think one of the most surprising things was their rushing attack. They really didn't use DeAndre Swift, who they picked up in the offseason. And Kenneth Gainwell was the lead back in a way. So I think that could change a little bit, but I think that was what shocked me the most.
Yeah, I think so as well. I expected Gainwell to be nearly the 3rd most used running back on their depth chart. But I think they're going to be a running back by committee. And I think maybe when they looked at the schedule, they thought, as the games get further on the season, you might see their premier running backs kind of coming to the fore. I certainly expect to see a lot more of Swift on Thursday night. I think Gainwell had 81% of the snaps, which, for somebody who's quite a light-bodied running back, it's inconceivable it's going to continue that way. Was there anything else with the Eagles in terms of how their defense? Do you think it's as strong as it was last year, considering they are missing a lot of the linebackers that they had in their roster last year?
Yeah, they lost Jonathan Gannon, the defensive coordinator to the Cardinals, didn't they? So I think, to be fair, I know he got a lot of talk of was he actually a good DC. I still think this defense is going to be good, but we could maybe see it fall back a little bit. I think their corners. I think Bradbury's a really good corner, and I like Darius Slay, but I also, he is getting on a bit with age now. He's ticking really into his 30s, and he got a pick six, but you look and CJ Gardner-Johnson's not in that backfield anymore. So I think that secondary might fall back a little bit, but their D-line's very strong, so I expect them to still be in the top 10, just maybe not at the top as much as they were last year.
So heading into tonight's match on Thursday Night Football, James Bradbury might be out with a concussion. I know he's in NFL concussion protocol at the moment. So maybe we'll see some of the younger cornerbacks like Kelly Ringo out of Georgia, get a few snaps. How do you think the Eagles might match up against the Minnesota Vikings? And do you think the Minnesota Vikings are as reliant on Justin Jefferson as they were last year?
Yeah, for starters, I think the Vikings are going to still rely heavily on Justin Jefferson. You know, they got other few pieces in T.J. Hawkinson and Jordan Addison, the draft pick out of UFC, but USC, yes.
Yeah.
But I still Kirk Cousins. I think as a quarterback, I don't think he's good enough to win you games. Personally, I think he's too inconsistent with turnovers and I think this Eagles defense, you know, their secondary could take a hit, but I think Slay versus Justin Jefferson would be a great matchup. When you look across the other side of the field, you know, Jordan Addison, he's going to be in those one-on-one matchups, maybe against Ringo, like you said, with a youngster coming up and taking that opportunity. You know, that's a rookie versus rookie, and it can be a bit of a 50-50 or which way that's going to go. So I don't think it's all lost. I think there's some holes in that Eagles defense, but that D line certainly should take advantage of the Vikings O line, and a lot of the game can come down to the trenches. So if that does happen and the Eagles dominate there, it could be a bad night for the Vikings.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think the Eagles D line has improved on last year, and I think it's going to improve, especially with those two stud D tackles coming out of Georgia. I'm a big fan of Jalen Carter, what I've seen in the field, and I think the Eagles' O line is actually banged up heading into week two, which is not a good sign. Bradbury, I think he only had 7 or 8 snaps before he had to leave the field against the Buccaneers on Sunday, and their their left tackle Darisaw, he played injured for most of last Sunday's game. So again, he's another injury doubt. And if there's one place you don't want to go in with a couple of injury doubts to your offensive line, it's into the Philadelphia Eagles. Um, what do you make of Addison, the wide receiver from um, who was a first round draft pick from USC on the Vikings?
You know, I think I think technically wise, he's very sound. He's a good route runner. I think the problem with him though is a bit us, you know, something that you can't teach, and that's athleticism. You know, he doesn't have elite speed. He doesn't even have elite agility. I think he can be very stuck and only really play in the slot. I can't see him winning outside much. But, you know, when you're in that slot and in that press coverage, you know, with the way his release is good and the route running, he can take advantage of that. You know, this is a player that won the best wide receiver award in college football in his sophomore season. So he is a good talent. Um, Lacks, like I say, that elite athleticism to dominate players, especially in a rookie year. But I think if he gets a good matchup against a Ringo, then who, like I say, lacks technical ability, then he can find a way to take advantage of that.
Yeah, one thing about Addison, he's going to see a lot of single coverage this season with Jefferson on the other side. What do you make of the Vikings running game? Now that Dalvin Cook has left, it's kind of Matheson who's kind of taken up the bell cow mantle.
Yeah,
Um, what?
sorry. We've seen Madison in the past, obviously. I think he's actually quite a good, and I think he's a good number two back. But is he a number one back? That's the question. And I think he's shown he can have big games. He's had 100-yard rushing games, so I think he's good enough to lead an attack. It's just whether he's good enough to lead a good rushing attack, and especially behind a beat up O line. So I think TJ Hawkinson, you know, he's a good run blocker, a lot better run blocker than a pass blocker. So that helps in ways. And bar that, I think, like I say, when you look at the Vikings run game, it's never going to be as good when you are missing a Dalvin Cook.
Yeah. So neither of us sound too hot on the on the Vikings in this matchup. One very noticeable thing last Sunday against the Buccaneers was it was a game that they looked like they played well enough to win, but key takeaways throughout the game. I think Kirk Cousins had an interception. I think there was with the new center there was a missed snap. He got strip sacked as well. Um, should we be betting on the Eagles defense to maybe have a couple of pick sixes or a couple of turnovers in this game?
I think highly likely, yeah, when you put it like that, especially coming off a 3 turnover performance. This Eagles defense certainly gets a lot of turnovers, and it scores points. We saw that it did it against the Patriots last week. So, like I said, I think that's a good prediction there to where you could definitely see maybe this Eagles defense actually put up some points itself.
Yeah, no, it's hopefully we get a good game. There's nothing worse than watching on Thursday night football, staying up late, and one team is absolutely mauling the other team into the ground. Another topic, obviously, this week, Aaron Rodgers been ruled out for the rest of the season for the Jets. If you were the Jets general manager, what would you do? Who
Oh,
would you be
I think
calling?
that's a big question. I mean, do you call anyone? Do you sit with Zach Wilson? Probably not. But I think for starters, talking about the Rodgers thing, I'm a Lions fan, so I'm not Rodgers' biggest fan, but I do think it is a bit sad to see, to go down that quickly. I did want to sort of see him. How could he do with this Jets team? Because it does look for real, but um, I think a lot of the QBs out there is hard. I don't think I would go for a Wentz, which is being reported. I've seen a Philip Rivers being rumored. I don't think I would go down that route whatsoever. But I think personally, I know a name that being floating around. I think we were talking about it off air is Jacoby Brissett. I think you just sort of want to have a reliable, not reliable, but a veteran, but still a guy that has been in a lot of systems and can sort of come in immediately and jump on the tracks and not have to take too much time to get used to things around him. So I think I would call a name around that. For trade things, I think there's still quarterbacks that they could maybe put names out there. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater, maybe. But I think partner a guy like a reliable number 2 with Zach Wilson and play it out in the season is probably their best option. Yourself?
As a Washington fan, if I got a second or third round pick for Jacoby Brissett, I would take it. I think we have our quarterback for the season, and on our practice squad, Jake Fromm had a very good preseason. So he could come in as number 2. I think almost day one to replace Jacoby Brissett. So I wouldn't be against that trade at all. Of course, if you look at the other players on practice squads, could they get Bailey Zappi from the Patriots, or would the Patriots play ball with a divisional rival? Possibly not.
There's a
And also the rumors of Tom Brady maybe returning. That would be sensational, but I can't see it happening. I
no.
would love it to happen. I would love him to go to the Jets and beat the Patriots, beat Bill Belichick. It'd be just a great story throughout the season to follow, but I just don't see it happening.
I mean, like I said, that it would sort of be Tom Brady like to come and just walk into a team like that out of nowhere. But yeah, that would have to take some huge convincing, I'm sure, and that would be, like I say, a massive move. But it would be a huge move and plus for the Jets as well.
Especially when he was unveiled on the ring of honor at Foxborough last Sunday. But I'm pretty sure it's one he would consider, just the fact that the Jets have a Super Bowl contending defense. They have a lot of talent on offense. If they can keep him standing up with his decision making ability, I think he would certainly make him a playoff team. Without him, Wilson, I would really like to see Zach Wilson succeed in New York, the Jets, especially after such a rough rookie year. I'd like to see him come out the other side. He seems like a really nice kid, but I have my doubts. I think if he learned behind Rodgers over a full season, I think we might see a different Zach Wilson next year. But I'm going with him, and I actually would like to see Zach Wilson bring this Jets team to the playoff. I like the way he throws the ball. I think his decision making needs a lot of improvement. But I think they should roll with him. And if they got Jacoby Brissett to back him up, I think that would be a really good call. And as a Washington fan, yeah, let's pile up on draft picks and see can we bring that advantage into next season. Okay, I think we're going to leave it there. Conor, thanks very much for jumping on the pod for week 2. and let's chat again next week.
Pleasure as always. We'll see you after another weekend of sure surprises.
Oh, absolutely. See you, Connor. Bye.